my friends, is our former host and contributor, Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a dad now, so there's some good things going on in the Hager house.
Yep.
He's on to help preview the Hawaii game versus Michigan and recap the Colorado State game versus Michigan, and then do the very important annual NFL preview. So, we might take a hiatus to take care of a shipped order, but let's get to the recapping Colorado State's game. Were you guys surprised by anything? And what did you take from that game?
I actually forgot. I thought they played at 3:30. So you guys texted in the group text. I didn't watch anything. So I saw like almost no Cade McNamara.
You're better off for it.
It's probably a good thing.
So all I see is that like Alan Bowman had the save. So
yeah.
You did.
But no, I mean like it was typical. It's what you would expect from them playing Colorado State. 51-7. Like you really, that's a good amount of points. Like that's some like early couple years Jim Harbaugh, like playing Rutgers and Maryland, where he would just kind of run it up. And then people would get mad, and then he said, "We're running our offense," and kind of just seemed like that's what he was doing. It's like, we're running our offense. I don't care what the box score says. Like, we're going to run the plays we need to run. Everybody got reps. Like, I'm looking at just the box score. 1, 2, 3, 4. 9 players had rushing yards on Michigan's team.
15 players caught a pass.
Yeah, 15 players caught a pass.
No one had more than 2.
Only 3 players had 2 pass catches, and that's the most that they had.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like it was a preseason game for Michigan, which is again, these first 3 like non-conference games, that's what they should be.
This is the easiest 3 non-conference games I think they've had in a long time. To be quite frank, too. Strength of schedule is very, very easy for them this season. And that, at least in that regard. But I did notice, they played 4 quarterbacks. Like you said, Bowman got the save, but they had Orji come in, do 3 snaps kind of out of the Wildcat. And obviously JJ took 11 snaps only, and Cade did 43 of them. But the big controversy is basically Cade, JJ, and Cade's attitude about it.
Yeah. I mean, all right. I mean, my takes, surprises. Nothing really surprised me on offense. I didn't think anything it looked like last year. Pretty much dominating on the run with the run game, minus Hassan Haskins not being there. And then Cade looked like last year, which isn't really what you wanted. You wanted to see a step forward, right? Because like Michigan can win 10, maybe even 11 games this year if Cade is what he was last year, but can they go take that next step? And what you're looking for is, either improvement from him or you're going to the next guy. And you're going to JJ. So, I mean, I think obviously this week we'll get to that in a minute, but that will answer that question. My bigger takeaways were defensively. Like, I mean, I know it's Colorado State, arguably. I mean, I'm assuming, Hawaii and UConn are going to be really, really bad too, but Colorado State might have the worst offensive line they're going to face, but I mean, they annihilated that offensive line. And I think 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, forced a couple turnovers, had a defensive touchdown. I mean, I think if you're taking anything from that, it's just like, hey, that's what you're supposed to do against a really overmatched offensive line. Because what I would have been disheartened by would be if, they got no pressure, or especially replacing the 2 NFL defensive ends, first round talents, number 2 overall pick. If you're looking at that, I would have been disheartened if if they didn't get pressure, because then you're like, oh man, they are really going to take a step back. But in my opinion, I think they're, you're not going to recreate a 2nd overall pick necessarily, or not going to recreate Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo necessarily, but I think they could be better overall on defense than they were last year, just because I think they have more team speed, and I think they have more guys that they can rotate around up front. So that's what I will take away. And then, the quarterback battle, JJ led 2 scoring drives, scored 1 touchdown himself. Jim Harbaugh says he's running the 4.5s now. I mean, he's just going to be too hard to keep off the field right now. And Cade looked, his middle, after his first 2 drives, he looked fine.
Yeah.
Decent. A little more decisive, a little more accurate with some stuff. Made a nice throw, and that 2-minute drive to Eric All made a really nice throw. That was a great throw.
That was, I think, his best throw of the game. Yeah.
Oh, by far, because it was off balance. He was rolling away.
Because people were trying to give him credit for the Roman Wilson touchdown. Like,
he didn't. I could have made that throw. that was not difficult.
Yeah, I'll get a free touchdown.
Right. Yeah, that was. But again, that's nice to see as well. Turning a bubble screen into a 60-yard touchdown. That's good to see too. But and I think they need to do more of that type of stuff. Be able to turn those easy plays, especially if JJ ends up being the guy. The easier you can make it on him, and be explosive outside is going to make it easier on him. But yeah, JJ led 2 scoring drives in 11 snaps, and looked pretty much in control. Now I know it's against Colorado State, but Cade was playing against Colorado State too, and he just wasn't seeing the open guys. There were more guys open. I have, like I said, I haven't gone to work the last 2 days, so I've been sitting there rewatching stuff and pausing. And what else am I going to do? So pausing and
circling and doing
exactly
the highlights,
watching the film. And there were other guys open, and he just wasn't seeing it, or he was locking in on that first guy, or locking in getting too quickly to the check down, which were the concerns and the frustrations everybody had with him last year. And like I said, I think they can still be a 10-win team if he's what he was last year, but they're not. They're too talented to just settle for that, in my opinion. So we'll see where it goes. I'm not necessarily going to write him off, because I think they'll still need him in some capacity this year. But right now, I would give JJ the leg up, barring how he plays next week.
So yeah, and I think my biggest surprises from this game, takeaways and whatnot. First off, Trente Jones played every single offensive snap. I thought that was interesting. Like, you just refused to put in another tackle to replace him.
I will say Ryan Hayes didn't play, so they're down 1 tackle there. Carson Barnhart is normally the backup right tackle, and he got hurt in the game, and he'll actually be out next week. So I sort of get that, but I agree with you. I think part of it is, he didn't play. He was basically the extra tight end last year, or the extra offensive lineman. So I think they just want to get him more reps out there. But if I were to guess, if everybody was healthy, I would guess that Carson Barnhart probably would have played out there. But yeah, maybe. And then I think Trente Jones probably struggled the most, especially in pass protection of all the offensive line. So I think they were just like, all right, we just got to keep getting him reps.
I think, yeah. And my other surprise was Mike Sanders still coming right off the bat. I knew he was going to be a valuable part of the defense, but I think he had the 3rd most snaps out of anyone on that defense playing corner. And so seeing that transition, and actually I felt like he did pretty well at that position.
He completely shut down the edge on a few plays, blew up a couple screens, had a sack where he came out of blitz. So, encouraging.
It was. And so the other thing I kind of wanted to cover was what player or players really jumped out the most. And that's why I kind of brought up, Mike Sanders still with that first. And, a lot of people, I don't know if you noticed this, but I think Braden McGregor took 12 snaps. And I think he was elite. It almost looked like he was elite. He took a huge jump this year, it looked like. In just those 12 snaps, he was super effective.
He's got elite hands. So he's got an elite swim move, and he's got very strong hands. I think he struggles because he'll get knocked off his spot, because I think his lower body is just a little bit too weak right now. He blew up, his knee exploded before he got here. So he's still, up until this year, he's never been fully healthy. So I'm sure he's behind in that stuff. I would say Derek Moore stood out to me. Crazy. For a freshman, he's ready to play already.
And Yabi Anoma also.
Yabi Anoma didn't play a lot, but was extremely effective in his, I don't know how many snaps he got by the end.
He had 9.
9, and he has sack.
Braden McGregor and Derek Moore both had 12.
Yep. Jalen Harrell was probably the best player on the edge, honestly.
He looked really good, yeah. Junior Colson looked very good. Junior Colson was all over the field.
I was at the game, and Junior Colson's name had to have been called like 35 times, I thought. I remember a guy next to me was like, Colson again? And I'm like, man, it's like the 4th quarter, and he's still racking up the tackles. I think they credit him with 10, but it felt like he was in on every play.
Well, he also led the defense in snaps. I think he had 46 of the 59 defensive snaps. So.
Yeah. I think not a player in particular that jumped out to me, but just like the skills positions in general, rushing, like the running backs and the wide receivers, just kind of picked up where they left off last year. Obviously, like, Blake Corum's had like injury concerns and other things, so hopefully he can stay healthy, but he's just running as hard as ever. Donovan Edwards is just a really cool gadget player who can just do kind of anything else and fill in the gaps of like where Blake Corum is. And just like the receiving, like Roman Wilson looks like he can be a number one option. Obviously, you still have Ronnie Bell coming back this year, and they didn't really like let him loose to see anybody loose, but they didn't really let Ronnie Bell loose. So we don't know how much he's back. Like if he's just 100% like last year didn't happen, or if he's gonna, like not going to be a number one option anymore. But like Roman Wilson having that huge touchdown, but just being like out there and like he showed up really good in Ronnie Bell's absence last year. He was a great consistent player for Cade. So I think just seeing the skills positions, just like even again, I know we have the modifier of like it is Colorado State, but like they're deep. Their players are still good. AJ Henning still looks like he could run back any punt or kick return that he sniffs. Like every time he touches the ball, you're just like, oh, touchdown. Like even if there's a guy in his face. So just seeing the skills positions, like everybody just took off, picked up right where they left off, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Losing some seniors and some upperclassmen who left, but not a ton. So they're returning a lot of guys in those positions, which people should just keep improving. They're coming back for another year. So
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and I think that kind of like reminds me of what I wanted to focus on with the Hawaii preview. Is you just talked about these skill positions, these wide receivers. It's a really deep wide receiver group, and I want to see Angelo Anthony get way more involved. I want to see Ronnie Bell, back to the way he was, and obviously Roman Wilson, AJ Henning. Even if they get Sainer still back there, like that, that room is loaded. So I hope that they let JJ let loose a little bit more. Than maybe they were just like, okay, Cade was pretty ineffective the first two drives, so like let's just focus on what Michigan football does, and let's just run the ball down your throats. So I'm kind of wondering if they just kind of changed that plan.
I think that was kind of part of it. I think initially they came out and they were throwing the ball a decent amount. And he was bad. I mean, he was just outright pretty crappy. They had the one drive, third or fourth drive where he was decent, and I think they just kind of sat there and said, okay, like we got to put this game out of reach in the first half so we can kind of get to what we want to get to with all the guys we want to play today. We just got to make sure that, we're going to leave no doubt in this one. So we're supposed to dominate this team. Let's just do that. They had the drive like mid-second quarter where they just ran the ball. I think it was 7 straight runs, ran it right down their throats and scored a touchdown. So I think that they kind of sat back and said, all right, guys, we gotta have one of those drives. And they had a lot of those drives last year where, and maybe that was in the plan all along, but I think they kind of looked at it as like, all right, Cade's just not seeing it today. And we got to just go out there and win the game and we'll figure it out. Similar, I mean, not at a much smaller scale in this game, but similar to like the Washington game last year. The guy couldn't hit the broadside of the barn all game long, right? So it's like, all right, we're just not going to throw it. I mean, Washington can't score on us. We're just going to run it every down and we'll score enough points.
Well, and that's like part of the whole quarterback controversy too, of like Cade is like so many guys before him and so many guys that are in other college programs, NFL programs, even like a Jared Goff, a Kirk Cousins, like someone who can just kind of game manage, who can like, as long as they're hitting some throws, like this game wasn't a good indicator of it, but like towards the end of the season, he came into his own, but he still was not like anything to write home about. You weren't like, oh my God, Cade McNamara coming back next year. Like he's going to light up the world.
Yeah.
You still want to see JJ McCarthy more than you want to see him. But
I think
like it's tough because like why I say like it's good to see the skills positions, because they're going to need to carry the team. Like they're going to need to take the 10-yard throws and make them 20-yard throws from Cade. They're going to have to get open as quick as possible. They're going to have to like be good at running for those games that he kind of lags behind. And I think before I walked off, Joel, you were saying like Cade kind of seems salty about the whole quarterback controversy and like that even a challenge and everything. It's like, I hope he uses that to motivate himself to be better Like I think all three of us watched like Hard Knocks for the Lions. Like make it grit. Like make it like make you a better player.
Mhm.
If you're pissed about another guy trying to take your job, if you're going to be mad about this or that happening, you not getting as many reps as you think, like make it motivate you to like show them why you're the starter. Like if Cade does that, then I don't care if he's pissed off. I don't care if he's salty. I don't care if he's upset about the whole controversy and wants to like subtweet or do whatever. Like that's fine as long as he takes it to become a better player.
I think
Take it and just stay the same and let JJ take his job from him, then like hopefully we're all the better for it, because I think JJ's a better quarterback overall. But I don't like seeing a senior guy who's like led Michigan to a Big Ten championship last year pushed off to the second string. But if that's what is going to happen, like it's the chips are in his hand. Like he holds the cards. Like he gets to decide what happens.
Well, I think it's been as fair as it can get. I mean, I think it's been beaten like a dead horse in the media, but like it's been fair. They're both getting a game. They both had all fall camp. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think they'll figure it out. And Harbaugh's going to play the guy who's best for the team, right? He's not going to play a guy that's not, right?
When it gets down to playing Ohio State, you're going to have your best players up.
Right. And what I will say is he's also, there's things that we don't see, right? Does JJ get you into the right run play like Cade does? Probably not. Let's be honest. He probably doesn't, right? Does JJ, make all the right protection checks at the line that Cade does? Probably not, just because he hasn't been here as long, right? So there's certain things that we don't see from a quarterback perspective that, quarterbacks are responsible for that we'll just never know who's better at, right? But from a pure talent standpoint, I mean, it's not even close, right? So it's like, if JJ's even remotely close in any of that stuff, right, and he's not turning the ball over, then I think it's mostly a no-brainer. Now you got to obviously, I mean, there's what does the team want? Cade is a captain. I think that is sort of a factor, but in the end, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. If he's the better quarterback, like JJ's going to play, and if he's not, then he's not going to be a starter, right? And I think it was Devin Gardner. He put it best. He said, look, he said he was one of the guys that was like, they can win 10, 11 games with Cade. He said, but when Cade's in the game, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for somebody else to make a play. Right. When JJ's in the game, he said, I'm sitting there going, JJ's about to make a play, and that's, we haven't really had that at quarterback in a long time, probably since he played.
People thought that Shea Patterson was going to be that.
Right. And there's some danger there too, right? Where you're like, look, man, you don't need to do all of it. Right. And that's kind of on the coaches to kind of to massage and work through. But at the same time, you can't eventually you have to kind of pull the trigger on that type of thing. And Harbaugh's been through this type of thing before in multiple different occasions in the NFL mostly. But I think, I agree with you, Joel. I'd like to see him like let loose. But at the same time, I just want to see the offense move the ball consistently. I want to see crispness. I don't care if they're having to run the ball. I don't care if he's running the ball. They don't need to throw 50-yard bombs all the time. I just want to see crisp offense. If I see that, I mean, he's got to be the guy.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to what things that I expect to see in this game. And I think that, we want to see, JJ throw for 250 yards or something and three or four touchdown passes. That'd be great. But unfortunately, Hawaii is one of the worst tackling teams I think I've watched any games. Not like I've just watched highlights against them. I'm like, this is abysmal tackling. Like this good running back just ran through you. So I think in Michigan, they can run 400 yards this game if they want to. And I think because they're trying to be nice, I think they will run for about 400 yards in this game with the mix of JJ's feet and, the options that they're going to run. And then, Blake Corum and Tavir Dunlap and Donovan Edwards. And, there's a lot of options back there that can just take that football. And I think that's going to happen. I think JJ, I expect him you got to give him at least a full half, if not a little bit more. But granted, I expect to see, Davis Warren and Bowman and then I expect to see Alex Orji and Cade McNamara.
I expect to see a lot of Cade.
Maybe even move Peyton O'Leary back to quarterback just so he gets a little bit of time, right? I mean, he had 7 snaps as a wide receiver this last game.
I don't know if we're doing that, but I expect to see a lot of Cade McNamara.
Still there? Give it to Jesse Madden. I want to see Jesse Madden.
Vanderbilt ran for 400 yards against Hawaii.
Yeah, they won 63-10. So are you
Yeah.
setting the precedent now that Michigan has to win more because Michigan's better than Vanderbilt?
No, they don't
No.
need to.
Well,
That's the thing.
That's the thing. Like
Every game is different.
Yeah, it's just going to be a race against the clock. Like they're just going to
Right.
ball so much that they're going to be milking the clock the whole time. So I don't. Could they score more than 63 points and hold Hawaii to 0? Yes. Will they? Is there enough time on the clock to do that? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, that's really hard to do. That's
Yeah, if you gave them a
incredibly
fifth
hard to
quarter,
do.
they'd do it easy.
Which is why the spread being as high as it is just absurd, right?
Yeah.
I know, like I wouldn't be surprised either way, right? I mean, I'm expecting, but like any spread that I see that's higher than like 30 points is just ridiculous to me. Even the spread last week, I was just like, I mean, that's even kind of a tough cover. Just because like these, especially late in games when it's a blowout, the teams just hand the ball off. The clock never stops. Like I mean, unless you just got some crazy team that's only throwing the ball, like the clock never stops. So.
The only way I think that happens is if Michigan is up, 38-3 at halftime already. Then it's like, okay, yeah, maybe they finish with like 50, 70, almost 70. I know they've scored 70 points before. I think in the last 3 years they put up 70. I think.
Yeah,
I would
they beat
first
Rutgers
quarter. I'd
77
really like them to. I'd like them to throw the ball a bit first quarter. I'd like them to like use. I guess Hawaii, like it's only week 2. They have another non-conference game, and their starting conference schedule wasn't that tough. But like one of these games, they're going to have to start like getting their main guys like in place. Like they're going to have to not have 16 or whatever people catching passes. Like they're going to have to narrow that down to 5.
Yeah, I think I'm not going
10
to
guys
expect
running
that.
the ball.
I'm not going to expect that this week,
No.
but yeah, by UConn.
I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see a little bit.
Yeah, trim it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. I just
give Ronnie Bell like 5. Like I'd like to see a couple guys at like 4 or 5 catches rather than 2.
I can get behind that for sure.
Yeah. And the only players I would say to watch out for of Hawaii, the running back, Dedrick Parsons is pretty good.
Yeah.
From what I've seen. And then pretty much no one else. Braden Schrager is their quarterback.
He's bad.
Sophomore. He has not been good in already the 2 games they've played.
He's been pulled.
Yeah. And then
Twice.
Jonah Pinocchi is probably one of their better receivers right there with Jalen Waltel. So but their offensive line, bad. Defensive line, linebackers, no one can tackle. Like I don't expect this game it's not even gonna be close. I'd be shocked if we gave up 10 points, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean,
on Braden Schrager's page on ESPN, his only highlight video is from last season. It's a 25-yard touchdown pass.
And they've played 2 games, so
yeah, they're ahead of us even in that category.
The thing I could say is this could get ugly quick. I mean, I think the team's going to be pretty fired up. It's a night game. Why this was at night, I don't know. It just makes no sense.
Got to keep Hawaii on their schedule.
I guess.
It's like 2 a.m. for them.
Why? Yeah, they're probably okay with it being at night, actually. But I don't know. This could get pretty ugly because I think they're going to be pretty jacked up. But what I don't want to see, I guess, is just JJ trying to do too much. If he can just play, like I said, I just want to see crisp offense. I don't care if he's putting up crazy numbers. And I don't think Jim Harbaugh necessarily needs that either. Like, obviously, the fans want to see him rip off 300 yards and run for a couple touchdowns and throw for 3 touchdowns and just leave no doubt. But is that really what – to me, that's not showing me a whole lot because it's Hawaii. Now, if he does that against, like, Maryland or Iowa, then then we're seeing something. But it doesn't show me enough. It doesn't mean a whole lot to me if he does that. What I want to see is just crisp, like I said, crisp offense, just moving the ball and scoring touchdowns. No more field goals. I don't want to see any field goals for Jake Moody.
So kickoff at 8 p.m. in Michigan will be 2 p.m. in Hawaii.
Yeah, they probably are cool with it being at 8.
Yeah, on the Big Ten Network. So
yep.
A noon kickoff would be literally 4 a.m. for them.
Yeah, most of their games are like aired at like midnight.
Yeah.
So